The crews of the 8th Air Force were well aware they were fighting an experienced, battle-hardened German Air Force.
Prior to being sent over, our commander called us together, and he said, now I want you to look to your right, and you look to your left, and look ahead and look behind you, and only one of you is going to come home. So you're going to be killed, and you might as well accept it. That's the way we went to war.
We have told stories about the 8th Air Force in the past. Don Siesenguth was a pilot who arrived in Europe in 1944 and completed 30 combat missions. Jesse Seeley was a navigator. His crew was shot down over Germany and captured in November of 1943. More than 28,000 members of the 8th Air Force became prisoners of war. 26,000 were killed in action, according to the National Museum of the mighty 8th Air Force.
In wartime, there are no funerals, usually. There are no memorials. When we lost a crew in the airports, they were just gone.
Chattanooga native John Lucky Luckadoo was a B-17 pilot with the 8th Air Force's 100th Bomb Group. Tell me what it's like to be back in your original hometown.
Hard to describe, truthfully, particularly after all these years. I graduated from Chattanooga High School in 1940.
The school building is still here, it just has a different name. Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences, or CSAS. That's where I had the privilege to talk to Major John Lucky Luckadoo. Which part of town did you grow up in?
Well, I grew up on Missionary Ridge, and we lived on the side of the ridge, on the south side of the ridge.
Major Luckadoo wrote this book, Damn Lucky. It tells his story. If you've seen the series Masters of the Air, then you know part of the story of the bombardment group Lucky flew with.
Of the 40 of us that came from my flying school class to the 100th Bomb Group, which became known as the Bloody 100th because of our horrendous losses, some of which were attributable to the fact that we were being thrown into combat totally unprepared, was that 4 of us out of the 40 actually lived to complete a tour, combat tour of 25 missions.
When Major John Lucky Luckadoo was flying a B-17 over Europe in World War II with the Bloody 100th, he says they weren't fighting one enemy, they were fighting 4. The German fighter planes and the flak, the anti-aircraft defenses, plus they had to fight their own fear.
The last and probably the most important one was freezing. We were flying at 25 to 29,000 feet in unpressurized, heavy 4-engine aircraft. Temperatures of minus 50 to 60 degrees below zero. And that so seriously impacted our ability to function that it was amazing. As a matter of fact, if you removed your glove at that altitude, your fingers could self-amputate to the knuckles. You wouldn't see any pain or feel any pain or see any blood or have any sensation at all. You just see your fingers lying on the floor.
Major Luckadoo now lives in the Dallas, Texas area. On his recent trip to Chattanooga, he visited his old high school. He spoke to a group at the National Medal of Honor Heritage Center, and he honored his childhood best friend, who was killed when his plane went down during the war.
Bless his heart, he was doing what he wanted to do and what we wanted to do together.
Lucky and Leroy Sully Sullivan grew up together here in Chattanooga. Before the U.S. entered the war, they came up with a plan to become pilots for the Royal Canadian Air Force, but they needed their parents' permission first. Sully's mother said yes. Lucky's father was a tougher sell.
He thought it was idiotic and impulsive and ridiculous, and he refused to give his permission.
So Sully went to Canada, and Lucky waited. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Lucky enlisted in the Army and told them he wanted to be a pilot. During the war, Lucky and Sully both ended up in England.
So we got together over there eventually and visited each other, and that was very nostalgic too, because we were very close friends.
When Major Luckadoo was here, he dedicated a cenotaph at Sully's mother's gravesite at Forest Hill Cemetery. He also interred soil from Sullivan's grave in England. Major John Lucky Luckadoo is now 102 years old. He has been honored across the country and around the world as he's told his incredible story and the story of the Bloody 100th.
War is hell. There's no easy way to confront it.
Many people will call Lucky a hero, and there are many great reasons for that. But Lucky, he just might disagree.
I'm no hero, I'm a survivor.
According to LuckyLuckadoo.com, Major Luckadoo is the last living member of the original pilots in the 100th Bomb Group from World War II. You can hear more of my interview with Lucky Luckadoo coming soon on our podcast, Morrowtown, Tennessee. You can find our podcast on my YouTube channel. That is at Josh Rowe, spelled R-O-E. You can also find that anywhere you get your podcasts.